Hello, my name is Matthew Weiss, and this is my individual leadership presentation on Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was born in 1858 and would die in 1919. Theodore Roosevelt was born with asthma, which he had to overcome through sheer determination and long hours of exercising through his early childhood and late teens. Eventually, he would go to college at Harvard College, graduating magna cum laude, and then immediately writing a book on the War of 1812, which was critically acclaimed. Theodore Roosevelt won a seat in the New York Assembly. After a few years in the Assembly, he became Assistant Secretary of the Navy, then went off to war during the Spanish-American War, won national praise during his campaign in Cuba, returned, became the 33rd governor of New York, and then became Vice President of the United States. And when his president, President McKinley, was shot and killed in 1901, he arose to the presidency and became the 26th President of the United States. Theodore Roosevelt lived by a few words his father always told him: get action, get sanity. And he would repeat it over and over through his life. He was a storm of change as president. He was a transformational leader. He would go after changes that would affect the everyday person, not for himself or even those rich like him. He would pass the Food and Drug Administration so that people could get clean food and healthy medicine that did not cause them to be addicted to opium and other drugs. He would also be very ethical. He always tried to do the right thing. And that meant going up against people of his same class, like J.P. Morgan and the trusts that controlled a lot of the wages and the products that people were trying to buy and were suffering under. He was a man of equality. He was the first president to invite an African-American, Booker T. Washington, to eat with his family at the White House. He was a man who understood people's needs a great deal. He wanted people to be able to live their life and be able to do so healthily and safely. That's why he intervened during the coal miner labor dispute in the early 1900s. No other president has ever interfered in a coal mining incident like this or a labor dispute like this. Theodore Roosevelt knew what the people needed to survive, and they needed shorter work weeks, as well as more money so that they could provide food for their families and not just make the owners richer. So he applied his skills as president and leader to make sure that the workers were able to get what they needed to continue to provide coal for people in the winter. The great understanding of how leaders are looked at is how Theodore Roosevelt let down his own supporters during the 1916 election, where he decided to support the Republicans rather than push through as a bull moose under the Bull Moose Party. Doing so cost him a great amount of his supporters grief, so much so that they even cried, ripped up his image, and felt betrayed by him. Leaders are often considered distant, while Theodore Roosevelt was considered a almost family member to a lot of these people that were rooting for him to become president. Theodore Roosevelt falls in line with the acquired needs framework. He was always looking for achievement, looking to always be affiliated, and always looking for power. His achievements as president, one of the crowning ones, was winning the Nobel Peace Prize for building peace between the Russians and the Japanese during the Russo-Japanese War, leading him to garner international and public fame. Affiliation, he put his name on everything. He was almost in every news story, every front page, always having a strong connection with journalists and trying to put his name in front of everything he get his hands on, oftentimes butting heads with other people for stealing the limelight, including his own daughter, Alice. Power, he was a man who expanded the powers of the federal government and the executive branch. Intervening in the labor dispute is a really good example of how he went around as the first president to intervene in a labor dispute between the coal miners and the coal mine owners. Theodore Roosevelt is the greatest president of the United States and a great leader. Thank you for watching.